Eli's blood was already on the pavement by the time the first engine roared into the alley. 3 stab wounds. Bare feet on cold concrete. And a 12-year-old homeless boy refusing to move, his body the only thing between a white van and a biker's little girl clutching his torn shirt. He thought the Hells Angels would just see a street rat who got in the way. But when Razor stepped off his bike and heard what really happened in that alley, the people who ordered the kidnapping discovered they hadn't targeted a child. Welcome to Echo's Tales family. If you've just found this channel, now is the time to hit subscribe, because this story is going to press on your heart in ways you're not ready for. To everyone who's been riding with this family from the start, may God bless you and keep multiplying grace over your life. Before we step into this scene, let's cover it in prayer. Heavenly Father, I ask for your protection over every person watching right now. Watch over their families, heal their bodies, provide for every hidden need, and flood their hearts with a peace that doesn't make sense to this world. Surround them with your favor, and let them feel your presence right where they are, in Jesus' mighty name, Amen. Now lean in, because what you're about to see isn't just another story. It's the tale of a homeless boy who chose courage over comfort, stepped between evil and a biker's little girl, and took 3 knives in an alley nobody else wanted to walk into, proving that sometimes the ones the world throws away are the first to stand up when an innocent life is on the line. Blood sprayed across the brick wall as the knife punched into Eli's side for the 3rd time. The alley spun, trash cans, neon, the white van with its side door hanging open like a hungry mouth. But the 12-year-old refused to fall. His bare feet slipped on wet concrete, his torn hoodie clung to his skinny frame, and his fingers dug into the little girl's wrist as if letting go would kill him faster than the blade ever could. "Stay behind me," he rasped, voice shredded. Lily's small hands clutched his shirt from behind, fingers trembling so hard they shook the fabric. Her pink backpack lay in a dirty puddle, one strap slowly soaking up oil and old rainwater. Her ice cream cone was face down on the ground, melting into the cracks like it had never existed. The van's engine idled 20 feet away, low and smooth, the sound of something patient. Waiting. If this moment already has your heart tight for this boy and this little girl, don't just watch, like this video, subscribe, and drop a comment telling where you're watching from so more people can stand with kids like Eli. "Get the girl in the van," the driver snapped. He stood by the open door, a shadow with a baseball cap pulled low, face half lost in the gloom. The man holding the knife smelled like cigarettes and burnt coffee, his hoodie damp at the cuffs, his breath hot against Eli's cheek. "I said move," the driver barked. "We're out of time." The knife twisted. White pain exploded through Eli's ribs. His knees buckled, but he locked them, sucking air through his teeth. His vision blurred at the edges, little black dots pulsing with his heartbeat. Every throb pumped more warmth down his side, soaking his shirt, dripping down his fingers where they pressed against the wound. He could hear Lily crying behind him. Not loud, not like the kids he used to hear through apartment windows. This was smaller, broken, like she was trying not to make a sound at all. "I can't," she whimpered. "Please, just let him go." "He didn't do anything." The knife man laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "He did one thing," he said. "He got in the way." Eli stared up at him, chest heaving. He had been invisible an hour ago, just another homeless kid wrapped in a stolen blanket behind the diner, counting the coins he'd collected from under tables and around parking meters. His stomach had twisted with hunger, that familiar hollow ache he knew how to ignore. He'd been deciding whether to buy a cheap burger or stretch the money for tomorrow. Then he'd seen the van. No headlights. No music. No delivery logo on the side. Just a plain white shell, creeping along the back of the building like a shark sliding beneath dark water. It had rolled to a stop near the alley mouth and waited. Eli knew that feeling. The wrongness. He'd watched too many people disappear from streets like this. He'd almost stayed where he was. Almost pressed his back harder against the cold brick and told himself it wasn't his business. Kids like him didn't get involved. They kept their heads down. They survived. But then the diner's back door had opened. Lily skipped out first, jacket half-zipped, ponytail bouncing. She'd turned toward the dumpsters out of habit, eyes searching the shadows where she knew he slept. "Hey," she'd called softly. "You out here tonight?" She'd done that every Friday for the last month. Leaving half a sandwich, by mistake, on the trash can lid. Dropping a pair of socks in a plastic bag with a note, "I told Daddy some people just need kindness. He said he used to be one." The first time, she'd actually walked all the way over to him. "You look cold," she'd said, nose crinkling. "Daddy says if you see someone hurting and pretend you don't, that makes you like the people who hurt him when he was a kid." Eli remembered staring at her, at the glitter on her backpack, at the bright trust in her eyes. He'd wanted to tell her his mom had left, that his stepdad had thrown his clothes on the porch and locked the door, that the streets didn't care if you froze. Instead, he'd just shrugged and taken the sandwich. Now her tiny body pressed into his back, shaking. The van door slid the rest of the way open with a rattling clatter. "Grab her," the driver snapped. "Leave the stray." The knife man shifted, one hand shooting past Eli, fingers snagging Lily's forearm. She screamed, high and sharp, the sound ricocheting off the brick walls. Something in Eli snapped. He didn't think. He just moved. He drove his shoulder into the man's chest, using everything he had left. Pain tore through his side like fire, but his momentum knocked the kidnapper off balance. They crashed to the concrete together. The knife skittered away, metal scraping stone. "Run, Lily!" Eli wheezed. "Go!" For one wild second, she obeyed. Her sneakers slapped the ground as she stumbled toward the diner door, lungs sobbing for air. Then the driver lunged. He grabbed Eli by the hair and hauled his head up, yanking him away from the fallen man. Eli's fingers clawed at the grip, but he was spent. The world tilted, colors fading. "You stupid little rat," the driver hissed in his ear. "You had to play hero." He slammed Eli to his knees. The boy's palms skinned against the rough, wet concrete. The alley smelled like oil, rotting food, and his own blood. Hero. The word didn't fit him. He was the kid people crossed the street to avoid. The one store owners chased away with mops and curses. The one teacher stopped looking for when he stopped showing up. But Lily hadn't looked away. She'd left food. She'd brought him a faded beanie one cold night and said, "Daddy used to sleep outside too." He said if someone had given him a hat back then, he would have cried. Nobody had ever done that for Eli. So when the van came, when the door slid open before she even stepped into the alley, He'd known exactly what he was willing to give back. Everything. The knife man staggered to his feet, face twisted with rage. Blood dripped from a cut on his forehead where he'd hit the ground. "Forget the girl," he snapped. "We'll grab her another night. Finish him." He picked up the knife. Eli's heart thudded, heavy and slow. His body swayed. The edges of the alley darkened, shrinking down to the bright glint of the blade. He thought of all the nights under that torn blanket, trying to stay small in the shadows. All the faces that had passed him without seeing him. Then he thought of Lily's voice, small and serious. "Are you one of those people who just needs a little kindness?" He shut his eyes. "God," he whispered, words barely air. "Don't let them take her. Please. If somebody has to disappear, let it be me." The knife man stepped forward. And the world shook. It started as a low grumble in the distance, like thunder trapped under the asphalt. The driver froze, head snapping toward the street. "Is that?" the knife man muttered. The sound grew louder. Closer. Engines. Not one, not two. A whole wall of them. The alley mouth exploded in white light as a line of motorcycles tore past the opening. Chrome flashed. Black paint gleamed. Leather cuts snapped in the wind. The Hell's Angels. The driver cursed. "You said we had 10 minutes. We did," the knife man spat. Someone tipped them. Tires squealed as the van jerked backward, trying to angle out. One of the bikes peeled away from the pack, skidding sideways like a door slamming shut. Its headlight flared, freezing everything in harsh white. The rider killed the engine and swung his leg over the seat in one smooth motion. Eli had seen him before from his spot behind the dumpsters. Broad shoulders. Arms covered in ink. A skull patched on the back of his cut with a name stitched above it that made grown men lower their eyes. Razor. Tonight, the name felt like a promise. He stepped into the alley, boots heavy on the concrete, eyes sweeping the chaos, the open van, the strangers, the girl halfway between door and danger, the homeless boy on his knees with blood soaking his shirt. His gaze locked on Lily first. "Lily." His voice boomed, rough and full of something Eli had never heard from a man that big. Fear. She bolted toward him, sobbing. "Daddy, Eli." Her words jammed together. Razor's eyes snapped to the boy. For the first time, Eli wasn't just a shape in the shadows. He was a kid kneeling in a pool of his own blood, body turned toward the girl like he'd be willing to stand up and take a fourth knife if he had to. Something cold settled over Razor's face. "Who touched my kid?" he growled. Engines behind him revved, a chorus of growling thunder, as the other bikers fanned out, blocking the mouth of the alley completely. The van rocked as the driver slammed it into gear, trying to force a gap. They weren't going to get away clean. Not tonight. The knife man flicked a look between Razor and Eli, calculating. The driver shouted, "Leave him. Move." Razor took one step forward. "Try it," he said softly. The word shouldn't have been scary. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a shout. But every single person in that alley felt the weight behind it. The kidnapper's grip tightened on the knife. Eli felt the air change, thick and electric, like the moment before lightning hits. This was it. One more wrong move and the ground would be littered with more than melted ice cream. Lily's fingers dug into Razor's leg. Her voice shook. "Daddy, don't let him die." Razor's jaw clenched. He looked at Eli, really looked. At the too big hoodie, the bare, dirty feet, the way the boy's hands wouldn't stop shaking even as he tried to hold pressure on his own wound. "You did this for her?" Razor asked, voice low. Eli's throat burned. "She gave me food," he whispered. "I couldn't just watch." For a heartbeat, the alley fell silent. Then Razor turned his head slightly, eyes never leaving the kidnappers. "Boys," he said, "nobody touches that kid." Engines roared behind him. The driver slammed his foot down, the van lurching forward straight toward the wall of motorcycles and the man whose daughter they tried to steal. And as metal met chrome and the alley erupted into chaos, Eli's last clear thought before the impact hit was simple. He hadn't just protected a biker's daughter. He'd just dragged himself into a war he didn't understand. The first thing Eli noticed when he woke up was that the ceiling was too white. No stained tiles, no peeling paint, no flickering neon. Just smooth, clean panels and a bright light that stabbed straight through his skull. He tried to sit up and a bolt of pain ripped through his side like someone was tearing his stitches out with their bare hands. "Easy, kid." The voice came from his left. Rough. Low. Familiar. Eli turned his head slowly. Razor sat in a cheap plastic chair pulled right up to the bed, boots planted wide on the polished floor, leather cut still on like he refused to take his armor off even in a hospital. Tattoos crawled over his forearms, dark against his skin. He looked like someone had dropped a wolf into a glass cage. For a moment, Eli thought he was still dreaming. Men like that didn't sit next to kids like him. He tried to speak, but his throat felt like sandpaper. Razor reached for a plastic cup, slid a straw toward his lips. "Small sips," Razor said. "You chug it, you'll puke, and I'm not the one cleaning that up." Cold water hit Eli's tongue and slid down his throat, sharp and glorious. He swallowed, eyes closing for a second. "How long?" he croaked. "You were out most of the night," Razor said. "Surgery. Blood loss. Doc said if that knife had gone 1 inch deeper, we'd be having a different kind of talk." Eli blinked up at him. "I'm not dead," he muttered. "Not today," Razor said. "That's the only reason those bastards are still breathing." If stories like this grip you, hit like and subscribe so you never miss the next twist. Eli swallowed, trying to pull the pieces back together. The alley. The van. Lily's scream. Engines roaring like a storm. The impact as the van tried to punch through the wall of bikes. The world tilting and going black. "Lily," he whispered, sudden panic sharpening his voice. "Is she?" "She's fine," Razor cut in. The iron in his face softened for just a second. "She cried herself out begging the nurses to let her stay in here with you. They finally kicked her out a few hours ago to sleep. She's down the hall with one of the old ladies. You'll see her when the doc says you won't rip your stitches screaming." Eli let out a shaky breath. His chest still ached, but the crushing weight around his heart eased a little. He glanced around the room. Only one bed. A flat-screen TV on the wall. Flowers on the table. Real curtains. Clean sheets. Everything felt too soft, too quiet, too expensive for someone who'd been sleeping behind a diner 2 nights ago. "They don't put kids like me in rooms like this," he said before he could stop himself. "They do when someone pays for it," Razor replied. Eli's eyes snapped to him. "You paid?" "The club did," Razor said. "You bled in our alley. You put your body between my kid and a knife. That makes you our responsibility." "Our." The word landed heavy in Eli's chest. "You could have just left me," he said quietly. "Cops could have taken me wherever. Shelter. Street. Doesn't matter." "Is that what you're used to?" Razor asked. Eli looked away. "Doesn't matter," he muttered. "It does to me," Razor said. The beeping of the heart monitor suddenly felt too loud. Eli watched the green line jump with every beat. Razor shifted forward, forearms on his knees. "You've been behind that diner for weeks," he said. "You think I didn't see you?" "I stayed out of the way," Eli said quickly. "Didn't bother customers. Didn't beg. I just survived," Razor finished. "Yeah. I know that look. Had it in the mirror once." His thumb rubbed over a scar on his knuckle, eyes going distant for a breath. "Lily's been sneaking you food," he went on. "Thought I didn't notice half her fries disappearing, sandwiches accidentally left behind. She told me there was a boy out back who just needed a little kindness." Heat crept up Eli's neck. Shame and gratitude tangled in his stomach. "I didn't mean to cause trouble," he whispered. "I just didn't have anywhere else." "How old are you?" Razor asked. 12, Eli answered. "You took 3 blades meant for my daughter," Razor said. "No one does that for free." He let the words hang in the air, then nodded as if confirming something to himself. "All right. Here's how this works. You stay under our protection now. Doctors. Food. A bed that isn't concrete. You don't run. You don't disappear. You heal." "That's it?" Eli asked. "That's the easy part," Razor said. "The hard part is coming." A chill slid down Eli's spine. "What hard part?" "Figuring out who sent those men," Razor said, "and why they knew my daughter's routine better than half my own brothers." Memories flickered at the edges of Eli's mind. The silent van. The door sliding open at the perfect moment. The driver snapping about being late. The knife man saying, "We'll grab her another night." "They said your name," Eli murmured. Razor's brows drew together. "In the alley," Eli said. "Right before the bikes came." The driver said, "We don't have time, Razors," then the engines were too loud. Razor's jaw clenched, a vein standing out in his neck. "They knew me," he said. "They knew where Lily eats on Fridays. They knew the back door. The blind spot where the camera's been busted for months." He held up 2 fingers. "That means one of 2 things. Either they've been watching us for a long time, or someone who knows us handed them a map." "Like a traitor," Eli whispered. "We don't throw that word around," Razor said. "But yeah. Maybe." Eli's fingers twisted in the blanket. "And what do you want from me?" he asked. "I'm just a kid." "You're a kid who sees from the cracks," Razor said. He jerked his chin toward the window. "Cameras miss what you notice. People talk different when they think you're nobody. You've been invisible in that alley for weeks. You know faces. Vans that don't belong. Cops who slow down too long. If you're willing, you can help make sure they never touch Lily again." Eli's stomach nodded. Months of staying small, staying out of the way, just trying to make it to morning. Now this man wanted him in the middle of something that felt bigger than anything he'd ever known. "What happens if I say no?" he asked. "You still get the bed," Razor said. "You still get the food. You're still under protection. We don't trade saving kids for favors." His gaze didn't soften. "But they'll come looking again," he added. "For Lily. For the kid who wrecked their job. And I'll be fighting blind without the one person who saw them before the sirens." The room felt tighter. The monitor's beeping echoed in Eli's ears. He thought of the van's too quiet engine. The driver's calm voice. The way the knife man moved like this wasn't his first time. He thought of Lily's tear-streaked face in the alley, screaming his name. "If I do nothing," he said slowly, "they still come." Razor nodded once. "Yeah. They still come." Eli stared at his own shaking hands. For the first time in a long time, someone needed him for more than disappearing. "Okay," he whispered. "Tell me what you need me to do." Razor let out a breath. "First, you heal," he said. "After that, we start talking details." The door clicked. Both of them looked up. A nurse stepped in, pushing a small cart. Early 30s. Dark hair in a tight bun. Blue scrubs. White sneakers. Her smile was soft and easy. "Good," she said. "You're awake." She glanced over the monitors, then at Eli. "We need to check your vitals and get you another dose of pain meds," she said. "You're going to be sore for a while." Razor straightened, shoulders tightening. "He just woke up," he said. "You sure he needs more already?" "If you want him awake, this helps," she replied smoothly. "Keeps the pain from dragging him back under." "Doctor's orders." Eli tried to calm his breathing, but something about her felt wrong. Her ID badge hung low at her hip, twisted so the name was turned away, not clipped high at her chest like all the others. The lanyard was a different color. A tiny detail, but the street had taught him to live off tiny details. She picked up a syringe, held it up to the light, flicked it. Bubbles rose. She pressed the plunger until a thin stream of dark liquid spit from the needle. Not clear like saline. Darker. Thicker. "Where's your badge?" Razor asked. She blinked. "Excuse me." "Your ID," Razor said. His voice stayed calm, but there was steel in it now. "Every nurse I've seen wears it up here." He tapped his chest. "Yours is hiding by your pocket. That normal now?" She let out a small laugh. "Someone's observant," she said. "It kept flipping around, so I clipped it lower. Occupational hazard." She moved closer, reaching for Eli's foreline. The heart monitor sped up, beeping faster. Eli's chest tightened. Instinct screamed. Razor's hand shot out, closing around her wrist before she touched the tube. Doc said nothing else goes in him without me hearing it from his own mouth, Razor said. So you can go get the doc, or I can call the desk and ask why your badge number doesn't match the name on your uniform. For a split second, her smile shattered. Then it snapped back into place. I think you're tired, sir, she said. Stress does that. I'll just step back, Razor growled. Her other hand slipped toward her hip pocket. Eli saw the flash of black plastic, too square for a phone, too solid for a pen. Razor. Razor moved. He shoved the cart forward. It slammed into her stomach, knocking the syringe from her fingers. It spun through the air and hit the floor, glass clinking. A small arc of dark liquid splashed across the white tile. She stumbled, eyes blazing. You don't know what you're doing, she hissed. You're making this worse for all of you. Razor stepped between her and the bed, hand drifting behind his vest to the shape of something hard and heavy. Get out. For a moment, the air in the room went razor thin. Then she straightened, smoothing her scrubs. Security will hear about this, she said lightly. Her eyes slid to Eli, and the warmth died completely. Sleep tight, hero. She slipped out. The door closed with a soft click. Razor waited 3 beats, then yanked the door open and checked the hall. His shoulders tightened. She's not on the staff list at the desk, he muttered. Badge number's wrong. He shut the door, turned the lock, and dragged the chair under the handle, jamming it in place. Eli stared at the syringe on the floor, at the dark stain spreading like a shadow. Was that, for me? He whispered. Razor crouched and picked the syringe up carefully by the barrel. Yeah, he said. And I'm guessing it wasn't vitamins. If your heart jumped when that syringe hit the floor, stay close to this story. Hit like and subscribe so you're here when the people behind that fake nurse finally step into the light. The room felt colder. It's not just 2 guys and a van anymore, Eli said, voice shaking. Someone walked into a hospital to finish what they started. Razor slid the syringe into a cabinet, tucking it behind folded linens. Doc's an old friend, he said. I'll get this tested off the books. He looked back at Eli. In the meantime, this room stays locked. If it's not me, the doc, or a nurse I name for you, you hit that call button and you yell. Eli's hands trembled under the blanket. So they're just going to keep coming? He asked. I don't know, Razor said. But now I know this isn't random. This is organized. These are people who don't care about cameras or cops. If we sit still and hope they get bored. His eyes went to the thin wood of the door, the cheap lock. We get buried. Eli swallowed hard. The silence between beeps felt longer. They wanted Lily, he whispered. Now they want me too. Good, Razor said. Because scared people make mistakes. And whoever sent that nurse? He nodded toward the cabinet. They just showed us how far they're willing to go. Somewhere down the hall, the lights flickered. Once. Twice. Without warning, every machine in the room went dead. The heart monitor. The 4 pump. The hum of the air conditioner. Silence dropped like a weight. Only a faint orange glow bled around the edges of the blinds. "Razor?" Eli whispered. Muffled shouts rose in the distance. Footsteps pounded. A door slammed. A voice barked orders, calm and sharp in a way that felt wrong. Emergency lights snapped on in the hallway, bathing everything in dim red. Razor's jaw tightened as he moved toward the door. "Transformer must have blown," he said. "Whole blocks down." His hand closed around the back of the chair wedged under the handle. "If I were the kind of scum we're dealing with," he said quietly, eyes on the red light pulsing under the door, "this is exactly when I'd make my next move." The machines died mid-beep. 1 second, the heart monitor beside Eli's bed flickered green in steady rhythm. The next, the line froze and vanished. The soft hum of the 4-pump cut off. The air conditioner's low breath stopped. Sound didn't fade, it was ripped away, leaving a silence so heavy it pressed on his ears. The room dropped into a dim, orange half-dark, lit only by streetlight leaking through the blinds. If you want to see how deep this story goes, like and subscribe before the next blow lands. Eli's pulse thundered in his chest, loud in the sudden quiet. He sucked in a breath that felt too big for his lungs. "Razor," he whispered. From the hallway came muffled shouts. A door slammed. Somewhere farther away, something metallic crashed to the ground. A voice barked orders, calm and clipped, the way Eli had heard cops talk when they thought they were in control. Emergency lights flicked on outside the room, throwing a faint red glow under the door, pulsing like a heartbeat. Razor moved to the door in 3 long strides. His shadow stretched across the wall, shoulders wide, posture coiled. "Transformer must have blown," he said. "Whole blocks out. Backup's running, but not on everything." He glanced back at Eli, eyes sharp, mouth a hard line. "If I were the kind of scum we're dealing with," he added, voice low, "this is exactly when I'd try again." Eli's fingers tightened around the blanket. "So, what do we do?" he asked. Razor's hand wrapped around the back of the chair wedged under the handle. "We don't wait for them to come knock," he said. "We move." He dragged the chair away from the door and slid it to the side. The tiny scrape of metal on tile sounded too loud in the stillness. "You said I needed to heal," Eli rasped. "I can't even sit up without." "This isn't recovery," Razor cut in. "This is survival." He crossed to the bedside, the leather of his cut whispering, boots heavy but controlled on the floor. "Can you stand?" he asked. Eli swallowed. His side throbbed with every heartbeat, his body felt like it was held together by threads. "I don't know," he admitted. "Then we find out." Razor gripped the rails of the bed and adjusted it, raising the head until Eli was half upright. The simple motion made Eli groan, a hot wave of pain rolling through his torso. "Breathe through it," Razor said. "In. Out. That pain's proof you're still here." He hooked an arm behind Eli's shoulders, careful of the bandages, and slid the 4-line from his arm with a quick tug. A sharp sting bit into Eli's skin, a small bead of blood welled up. Razor ripped the heart monitor stickers off his chest. No alarms. No nurses rushing in. Just that huge, heavy silence and the far-off echo of chaos somewhere else in the hospital. "Swing your legs over," Razor said. Eli gritted his teeth and obeyed. His bare feet hit cold linoleum, the temperature shocked him fully awake. The room tilted slightly, then steadied. His stitches pulled like barbed wire under his skin. He sucked in a sharp breath. "Good," Razor said. "Now stand." Eli's first attempt stalled halfway. His arms shook. His side screamed. Sweat gathered along his hairline. Razor slid an arm under his, lifting just enough to shift some of the weight. "You don't have to be strong," Razor murmured. "You just have to move." With a low sound that was part groan, part growl, Eli pushed off the mattress. His legs wobbled, but he made it to standing. The world narrowed to the feel of Razor's grip and the burn of the stitches. "See?" Razor said. "Already taller than you were in that alley." Eli managed a short, shaky laugh that hurt more than it should. "Now what?" he asked. "Now we get you out of this room," Razor said. "If they walked in once with a fake badge and a syringe, they'll do it again. I'm not waiting to see what they bring this time." He moved to the small closet and yanked it open. Inside hung a pair of faded jeans, a black t-shirt, and a gray hoodie that definitely hadn't come from hospital supply. "Those aren't mine," Eli said. "They are now," Razor replied. Snake grabbed them from the clubhouse. He tossed the clothes onto the bed. "Get dressed. You've got 30 seconds. 30, Eli's voice cracked. "Razor, I can barely stand." "Then take 40, Razor said. "But we're not spending another night here." Eli shuffled back to the edge of the mattress and lowered himself carefully, every inch a controlled fall. Each movement tugged at his side, the stab wound screaming in protest. He peeled the hospital gown away, face burning as cold air hit his scarred skin. The bandages around his torso felt too tight and too loose at the same time. He forced his arms through the t-shirt sleeves, biting down on a curse as the fabric dragged over healing flesh. By the time he got the jeans halfway up, his vision had started to fuzz at the edges. Sweat beaded on his forehead. His fingers fumbled with the button. Razor stepped in with a rough kind of gentleness, steadying him, helping pull the denim over his hips. "Lean on me," Razor said quietly. "That's what family's for." The word still felt strange. Heavy. Dangerous. Good. Razor grabbed a black leather vest from the closet. No patch on the back, just worn, scarred material that smelled like smoke and road. "Hey, cut?" Eli asked, surprised. "Not yet," Razor snorted. "You don't earn that sitting in a hospital. This just makes you look less like a kid fresh off the operating table and more like you wandered in from the lot." He draped it over Eli's shoulders. It hung big and heavy, the weight weirdly comforting. Razor cracked the door open an inch. Red emergency lights painted the hallway in pulsing color. A nurse hurried past pushing a cart, face drawn tight. Somewhere farther down, a doctor spoke to a cluster of worried family members. A baby cried, the sound thin and confused. "No panic yet," Razor muttered. "That's good and bad." He turned back to Eli. "You stay close," he said. "If anyone asks, you're my nephew. You took a spill off a dirt bike. You don't talk unless I tell you to. Got it?" Eli nodded. His legs shook as Razor helped him to the door. Each step felt like walking through mud with a knife in his side. They slipped into the hall. The hospital felt wrong without its usual noise. Every sound stood out, the squeak of a gurney wheel, the distant crackle of a radio, a nurse's hurried footsteps. Razor guided Eli toward the stairwell, bypassing the dark, lifeless elevators. "Not trusting anything that runs on cables right now," Razor said. "If they've got hands in the system, they've got hands in the power." They reached the stairwell door. Razor pushed it open quietly. The concrete steps spiraled down into shadow, lit only by tiny emergency strips that washed everything in a dull red haze. "Hold the rail," Razor said. "One step at a time. You pass out on me, I'll throw you over my shoulder. I'll look ridiculous, but I'll do it." Despite everything, the corner of Eli's mouth twitched. He gripped the cold metal rail with one hand and Razor's arm with the other. Each step sent a tremor of pain through his side. By the third landing, his breathing had gone shallow, and dark spots danced at the edge of his vision. "Almost there," Razor murmured. They pushed through a door into a side lobby on the ground floor. The main entrance glowed in the distance, silhouettes of people moving in slow, jittery shadows. Razor didn't head toward it. Instead, he steered Eli toward a metal door marked staff only. A small square window revealed the ambulance bay outside. Pale light, a few parked vehicles, 2 security guards near a patrol car. "Shortcut," Razor said. "Less eyes, less questions." He eased the door open a crack. Outside, under the weak glow of a floodlight, a third figure leaned against the wall in the shadows. Hood up. Broad shoulders. Cigarette tip glowing like a tiny, angry star. His head tilted slowly, scanning the lot, not at the doors, but at the gaps. The shadows. The places someone might try to slip past unnoticed. Eli's skin crawled. "That one," he whispered, barely moving his lips. "By the wall." "He's wrong." Razor's eyes narrowed. "You sure?" he asked. "He's not watching who comes in," Eli said. "He's watching where someone like us would sneak out." Razor considered that for barely half a second. "Change of plan," he said. "We walk out the front, where there are too many witnesses for them to try something loud." They backed away from the door and turned toward the main lobby. Each step felt like a mile. By the time they reached the entrance, Eli's legs were shaking so hard he almost stumbled. The automatic doors stuttered as they opened, running on backup power, then slid aside with a tired sigh. Cold night air washed over him, waking up every nerve. The parking lot stretched ahead, washed in orange streetlight. A few cars. An ambulance idling near the emergency bay. And along the far curb, lined up like a wall of metal and bone, a row of motorcycles. The first one was impossible to miss. Black frame, chrome skull on the handlebars. Razor's bike. 3 men stood near the line of bikes in leather vests, patches stark in the light. Snake with his long hair and sharp grin. Deke, heavy-set with a buzz cut. A wiry guy Eli hadn't seen before, fingers tapping against his leg like he was wired to the engines. The wiry one spotted them first. "There he is," he called. "The alley hero." "Shut it, rat," Razor snapped. "Eyes open. We're not taking a victory lap." Rat lifted his hands like he was surrendering, but his gaze slid past Razor, scanning the lot with quick, restless flicks. Snake's eyes landed on Eli. Some of the edge in his face softened. "You look less dead," he said. "Doc did his job. He looks like he needs a bed, not a bike ride," Deke muttered. "That bed's a bullseye," Razor replied. "We move now." Something shifted near the idling ambulance. The rear doors opened with a soft thunk. A man climbed down, tugging at his paramedic jacket like he'd just finished a call. He stretched his neck, rolled his shoulders, casual. But his eyes weren't on the emergency entrance. They were on the row of bikes. His hand brushed his ear. A glint, small, metallic. Earpiece. Eli's stomach dropped. "Razor," he said under his breath. "I see him," Razor murmured back. His jaw tightened. "Everybody mount up. Now." The bikers moved without question. Snake swung onto his seat, engine roaring to life in a low, throaty growl. Deke followed. Rat hopped on his bike, the motor humming with hungry energy. If your pulse is racing standing in this lot with Eli, hit like and subscribe so you're here when the first punch finally connects. Razor guided Eli toward the black bike with the chrome skull. "You ever been on one of these?" Razor asked. Eli shook his head, throat dry. "First time for everything," Razor said. He grabbed a helmet from the handlebars and pressed it into Eli's hands. "Strap it tight. You lean when I lean. You don't fight the turns. You hold on and you don't let go." Eli's fingers fumbled with the strap, but he managed to lock it under his chin. Razor swung onto the seat and nodded for Eli to climb up. Every motion tugged at Eli's stitches, but he gritted his teeth and swung a leg over, settling behind Razor. He wrapped his arms around Razor's waist, knuckles white against the leather. From the corner of his eye, he saw the paramedic talking into his shoulder, lips moving, eyes fixed on them. The ambulance's engine revved. The line of bikes rolled forward, engines building into a thunder that vibrated through Eli's bones. The convoy aimed for the exit lane, a moving wall of chrome and black. The ambulance pulled away from the bay. It didn't head toward the street. It angled across the lot, slow and deliberate, drifting into their path like a white steel barrier. "Problem," Snake called over the roar. "They're sliding into our lane, gee." "That ain't by accident," Razor growled. The ambulance eased to a stop directly in front of the exit. No flashing lights. No siren. The paramedic stepped into their lane, one hand raised, the other hovering near his belt. "Hospital policy," he shouted over the engines. "Lots closed until the power's stable. Need you boys to wait." Razor didn't brake. He rolled the bike forward until his front wheel was inches from the man's knee. The engines of the pack snarled around them. "We're leaving," Razor said, voice flat. The paramedic's polite smile never touched his eyes. "Afraid that's not an option right now," he said. "Orders from upstairs." His thumb brushed something at his belt. Eli followed the motion. Not a radio. Not keys. Plastic. Black. Familiar from the alley. The kind of thing that went over a face when you didn't want to be recognized. Behind the ambulance's tinted windshield, shapes shifted. Two silhouettes. One in the driver's seat. One just behind, head bent toward something that looked a lot like a rifle bag. Razor's shoulders squared. "You sure you want to press this?" he asked quietly, in front of cameras, witnesses, and a whole lot of men who don't scare easy. The paramedic's smile thinned. "I'm sure you don't want to find out what happens if you try to push through," he said. The engines growled, louder, like the bikes themselves were straining against invisible chains. Eli's grip tightened around Razor's waist. The air felt charged, heavy with all the things that could happen in the next heartbeat: metal screaming, glass shattering, bullets, chaos. Razor's fingers flexed on the handlebars. "Snake," he said without looking away. "You see any security cameras pointing at this exit?" Snake's gaze flicked upward, quick. "Two," he said. "One on the corner. One over the door. Both with a great view." Razor's mouth curved into something that wasn't a smile. "Good," he said. The paramedic's eyes flicked once toward the cameras. And in that tiny, involuntary movement, Eli finally saw it for what it was. This wasn't a conversation. It was a countdown. The engines didn't quiet down so much as shift tone, from caged anger to something like focus. Razor sat stone still, one hand on the throttle, the other resting loose but ready. The ambulance blocked the only clear exit, white boxy shape turned sideways like a barricade. Red emergency lights from the hospital washed everything in a pulsing glow: metal, concrete, the paramedic's too calm face. Eli's fingers dug into Razor's vest as another stab of pain twisted through his side. He could feel the stitches pulling, his heartbeat pounding against his ribs, the helmet pressing hot against his temples. If stories like this have you hooked already, like and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. The paramedic's hand hovered near his belt, thumb barely brushing a small black plastic device clipped there. Eli recognized the shape now, seen it in the alley, dangling from the kidnapper's pocket before the van had lurched away. Masks. They'd planned for this to turn ugly. Razor's gaze never left the man's eyes. "You sure you want to do this here?" Razor asked quietly. Cameras rolling. Witnesses watching. Ambulance company logo front and center. The paramedic's jaw ticked. "Hospital policy," he repeated. "Lot stays locked down until we get the all clear. You and your boys can rev your engines all you want. No one's leaving." Snake's voice cut in from the left. "Boss," he said, "security cam on the corner. Another over that door. Both got a wide shot of this clown and his toy truck." Rat snorted. "Hope he practiced his good side," Rat muttered. The paramedic's eyes flicked once toward the nearest camera. Just a flicker. But Eli saw it. The fear. "We're not the ones hiding our faces," Razor said. "Step aside." The man's fingers closed over the black device on his belt. "Last chance," he said. "Turn off the bikes. Go back inside. This doesn't concern you." Razor's head tilted slightly. "You tried to steal my daughter," he said. "You stabbed the kid holding on to her. You sent a fake nurse to finish him in a hospital bed. This concerns me." He twisted the throttle once. The bikes behind him roared like a living thing. In the distance, near the drop-off zone, a handful of visitors turned to look. A security guard near the door moved closer but didn't intervene. No one quite wanted to step between a line of Hell's Angels and an ambulance pretending to be in charge. Razor raised his voice just enough to carry. "You see this, folks," he called. "Ambulance blocking the only exit. Man in uniform refusing to move when we've got a minor fresh out of surgery." Deke leaned on his horn. The sound blared across the lot. Up in the corner of the building, a camera's red light blinked. The paramedic's grip on the black device tightened. Then, slowly, he forced his hand away from it, plastering on a thin smile. "Fine," he ground out. "You want to leave so bad. Go." He stepped to the side, but not far. The ambulance crept forward, turning just enough to open a narrow gap near the curb. Razor studied the opening, then the man's eyes. His voice dropped low again. "You tell whoever's listening in your ear," he said, "that this is the last time they get to hide behind flashing lights and uniforms." The paramedic's smile faltered, just for a second. Razor shifted his weight. "Snake, Deke, Rat," he ordered. 2 and 2. "Snake, you're on my 6. Rat, take the rear. We roll tight." The bikes surged forward as one. Wind hit Eli's chest, cutting through the sweat and fear as they slipped through the narrow space between the ambulance and the curb. He caught a glimpse of the driver's face through the windshield, blank, jaw clenched, radio pressed close to his mouth. Then they were out. The hospital dropped behind them, red emergency lights fading into the night. Eli held on as the city blurred past. Street lamps streaking by, dark storefronts, patches of shadow where people hunched on corners just like he used to. Every bump in the road sent a hot wave of pain through his side. He buried his face between Razor's shoulder blades and focused on breathing, on the steady rumble of the engine, on the knowledge that Lily was somewhere ahead of them, not behind. They rode for what felt like forever. Finally, the streetlights thinned. The buildings gave way to open road. The sky widened, stars pricking through the darkness. Razor turned off onto a smaller road, then a smaller one still, asphalt giving way to gravel that crunched under the tires. A pale house sat at the end of a dirt lane, porch light glowing soft and yellow. 2 bikes were already parked out front. A pickup truck sat to the side. The place looked ordinary, quiet, almost gentle. They rolled to a stop. Razor killed the engine. The sudden absence of the roar felt strange, like stepping out of a storm into a small, still room. "You good to stand?" Razor asked over his shoulder. Eli nodded, even though he wasn't sure. His legs trembled when he slid off the bike, but Razor's hand closed around his arm, steadying him. The front door burst open. Lily shot out in a blur of pink socks and oversized t-shirt. She flew down the steps, nearly tripping, hair tangled from sleep and worry. "Eli," she cried. He barely had time to brace before she crashed into him, arms wrapping tight around his middle, careful but desperate. The impact hurt, but he didn't say a word. "You're here," she sobbed into his chest. "They said you were okay but you weren't answering and then the lights went out and—" "I'm here," he said, voice rough. "I'm okay." He wasn't. Not really. But she needed to hear it. Razor's steps thudded on the porch as he came up behind them. A woman stood in the doorway. Tattoos on her forearms, crow's feet at the corners of her eyes, worry etched deep into her face. One of the bold ladies, Eli guessed. Club family. Get them inside, she said to Razor. Before Lily freezes and that boy falls over. The living room smelled like coffee and laundry detergent and a faint trace of cigarette smoke. A blanket was thrown over the back of the couch. Cartoons flickered silently on the TV. It looked, lived in. Safe. Razor guided Eli to the couch and eased him down. Lily refused to let go of his hand. Snake and Deke came in behind them, heads on swivels, checking windows and corners. Rat stayed outside, visible through the front window, pacing near the bikes with restless energy. Razor finally sat, the weight of the last 24 hours showing in the set of his shoulders. Okay, he said. Here's the part that's going to be the hardest to hear. Lily's grip tightened. Are they coming back? She whispered. Razor looked from her to Eli. Yes, he said. But not the way you think. He leaned forward, forearms on his knees, eyes locked on Eli. These guys aren't just street scum, Razor said. They're plugged in. Uniforms, radios, hospital badges. That nurse wasn't freelance. Neither was the ambulance. Eli pictured the syringe on the tile, the dark liquid, the fake smile. The paramedic's thumb brushing that black plastic clip. The driver talking into his shoulder as they rolled past. Trafficking, Razor said. The word felt heavy in the room. Kids taken, moved, sold to men with suits and clean hands. They pay people in the system to look the other way or help. Bad cops. Dirty nurses. Fake social workers. They get lists. Patterns. They knew you eat at that diner on Fridays, Lily. Lily's eyes widened. How? She whispered. Razor's jaw tightened. Because somebody talked, he said. Or somebody listened in where they shouldn't have. Maybe someone who knows us. Maybe someone who just wanted the money. He took a slow breath. We've been running things our way a long time, he said. Staying out of some messes. Handling our own. But this? He shook his head. You don't stab a kid in my alley and come into a hospital after him and walk away like nothing happened. He looked at Eli. You saw them in the alley, Razor said. You saw one of them up close in the hospital. You noticed the guy in the bay watching the exits. You saw things my boys didn't, because nobody looks twice at a kid who's supposed to be invisible. Eli swallowed. You want me to help you find them, he said slowly. I want you to help me make sure they never get near Lily or any kid again, Razor said. You don't owe me. You don't owe the club. But you're already in this. They tried to kill you in a hospital bed. That doesn't stop because we pretend it never happened. Lily's eyes shone with tears. You don't have to, she whispered. Daddy can fix it. You don't have to be scared for me anymore. I am scared, Eli said honestly. For you. For kids like me. The ones nobody notices missing. He thought of cold nights under the bridge. Faces he'd seen for a week, then never again. Whispers about vans. About girls who didn't come back. If I run, he said, they'll still come. Just somewhere I can't see. He lifted his gaze to Razor. So I'm not running. Razor's stare met his, steady and fierce. You sure? Razor asked. Eli straightened as much as his aching side allowed. I was nobody before that alley, he said. If being somebody means I get to make sure they don't grab another kid behind a diner, then yeah. I'm sure. The room went quiet. Then Razor nodded once, a small, sharp motion. All right, then, he said. You stay here. You heal. You tell us everything you remember. Vans. Faces. Voices. Words they used. We'll do what we do best with the rest. He sat back, some of the tension in his shoulders easing for the first time. From now on, Razor said, you're not the kid behind the dumpster. You're family. They came for my daughter. They came for you. They woke up a lot of people who'd been trying to mind their own business. Snake chuckled without humor. Bad move on their part, Snake said. If this feels like the kind of fight you don't want to look away from, stay with this family. Like and subscribe so you're here when the next hit comes. Lily leaned her head against Eli's arm. You're my hero, she mumbled, exhaustion finally dragging at her eyelids. Daddy says heroes don't wear capes. They wear stitches. Eli huffed a weak laugh that turned into a wince. I just didn't want you to go in that van, he said. I know, she whispered. Her breathing evened out as she drifted off, still clinging to his hand. Razor stood and moved to the window, looking out at the dark yard. Rat paced near the bikes, phone to his ear, voice low and harsh. Somewhere out there in the night, other phones were ringing. Men were waking up. Lines were being drawn. Eli followed Razor with his eyes. What if they come here? Eli asked quietly. Razor didn't turn around. Then they learn the difference between hunting and being hunted, he said. Outside, a truck passed on the distant road, headlights sweeping across the trees before vanishing. For a moment, everything was still, the house, the gravel, the line of silent bikes. Eli looked down at Lily's sleeping face, at the small freckles on her nose, at the way her fingers refused to let go even in her dreams. He felt the ache in his side, the weight of the vest on his shoulders, the echo of the ambulance's engine in his bones. He was still scared. But for the first time in a long time, he wasn't alone. Razor finally stepped away from the window and turned, his expression a strange mix of pride and fury. Get some rest, he said. Tomorrow, we start making a list. A list? Eli asked. Names, Razor said. Faces. Plates. Places that think they're untouchable. You give us what you've seen. We'll do the knocking. Eli nodded slowly. Okay, he said. Let's make sure nobody disappears from that alley again. Razor's lips curved into a grim smile. Kid, he said, after what you did out there, that alley doesn't belong to them anymore. He reached down and gently pulled a blanket over Eli and Lily. Outside, the wind picked up, rustling the trees. Somewhere far off, sirens wailed, moving away into another part of the city. The safe house lights glowed warm against the dark. Eli closed his eyes, not because he trusted the world, but because for the first time, he trusted the people standing between him and the dark. In the morning, there would be questions and plans and a war he barely understood. Tonight, there was one simple truth. A homeless boy had taken 3 knives for a biker's daughter. And the people who ordered it were about to learn what it meant when the Hells Angels decided a kid from the alley was one of their own.